The richest people did not stop flexing. They just made the flex harder to read. For decades, a big logo was the shortcut. It told the room, this cost money, this is a brand, this is status. But once everyone can recognize the shortcut, it stops working the same way. A signal that is too easy to read can start feeling too obvious. This video explains why status did not disappear from luxury. It moved into a quieter language, a language built from fabric, fit, proportions, service, scarcity, and tiny details most people were never taught to notice. This is the hidden shift from public signaling to insider signaling. And the strange part is this: the quieter the signal becomes, the more selective its audience gets. To most people, these objects look simple. To insiders, they can say almost everything. The old logic of luxury was simple. Make the brand visible, make the price visible, make the status visible. A logo worked because it compressed a whole story into one mark. You did not need to understand tailoring. You just needed to recognize the symbol. But visibility has a cost. When a symbol becomes widely understood, it becomes less exclusive as a social code. If everyone can read the flex starts speaking to everyone, and elite status often wants a smaller audience. That is why quiet luxury became so interesting. It looked like minimalism, but it was not just minimalism. Quiet luxury is not the absence of signaling. It is signaling with fewer subtitles. Instead of shouting the brand from across the room, the object whispers to people who already know what they are looking at. The point is not to be invisible. The point is to be visible to the right people. This is where status becomes a kind of password. If you know the code, you are inside the conversation. The code can be a perfect shoulder line, a certain fabric weight, the way leather ages, or a store experience that ordinary shoppers never see. In high-end luxury, the product is only one part of the signal. The ritual around it can matter just as much. Appointment shopping, private service, limited availability, and controlled distribution all turn the purchase into evidence of access. Sometimes the most expensive part of luxury is not the object, it is the closed door around it. So a plain sweater can carry more status than a giant logo, but only when the right audience can decode it. This creates layers of recognition. The masses may see nothing. A fashion-aware viewer sees taste. An insider sees price, access, and knowledge. Research on luxury signaling points to this split. Some wealthy consumers prefer obvious symbols. Others prefer quiet goods recognized mainly by their own circle. That matters because loud luxury did not vanish. Different people use different status strategies. A loud signal can still be useful when the goal is broad attention. A quiet signal works better when the goal is selective recognition. There is another reason the signal got quieter. Displaying luxury can raise perceived status, but it can also make a person seem less warm. In other words, a visible flex can say power, but it can also say distance, insecurity, or social harshness. Quiet luxury solves part of that problem. It keeps the status, but removes some of the obvious performance. The object does not need to impress everyone. It only needs to be legible in the rooms that matter. This is why the quiet luxury conversation exploded in culture. It turned clothing into a social riddle. A plain-looking cap, a neutral sweater, a muted coat, suddenly these became clues in a larger status game. But the deeper story is not a trend. The deeper story is overexposure. When luxury expands too fast, its promise gets harder to protect. The more visible it becomes, the more it risks feeling ordinary. If the brand appears everywhere, the customer starts asking a dangerous question. What exactly am I paying for? That is why the answer shifts back toward craftsmanship, quality, service, and experience. Not because status disappeared, but because the old signal got crowded. That is the difference between attention and recognition. A loud logo buys attention. A quiet signal buys recognition from the people whose judgment matters. The ordinary viewer sees a coat. The trained viewer sees construction, restraint, and a decision not to advertise too much. And that decision can be strategic. Not every wealthy person wants to look rich to strangers on the street. Sometimes the goal is to look appropriate inside a specific world, not impressive outside of it. So the status question changes. It is no longer just, what brand is that? It becomes, how did you know what that was? That is why quiet luxury can feel almost invisible and still be deeply competitive. The competition moves from visibility to literacy. The social reward is not applause from everyone. It is the tiny moment when the right person recognizes the signal. Once you see that, the whole trend stops looking like modesty. It starts looking like a more advanced form of status control. The more obvious the logo becomes, the more valuable the hidden evidence becomes. The logo is still there, it is just encoded differently. In the quiet version of status, the logo becomes the cut, the fabric, the silence, the room, and the knowledge required to understand it. That is why the richest signal may not be the thing that attracts the most eyes. It may be the thing that filters the eyes. Most people look past it. The right people look twice. Loud luxury asks, can you see what I bought? Quiet luxury asks, do you know what you are seeing? And that is the real reason rich people stopped wearing some logos. Not because they stopped caring about status, because at the highest levels, status often becomes more powerful when it is not obvious to everyone. Status did not get quieter, it got harder to read.